United Kingdom on Thursday last week signed a deal with Rwanda to send some asylum seekers thousands of miles to the East African country in a bid to, quote, save countless lives, end of quote, from human trafficking. While the main target of the scheme will be single men arriving on boats or lorries, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that anyone entering the UK illegally may now be relocated to Rwanda. However, the deal has not been received well by human rights activists and refugee organizations who are seeing it as inhumane, unworkable, and a waste of public money. And the United Nations said it raised a number of human rights concerns. Arise News contributor Farai Muvuti joins us now to speak on the controversial decision by Britain to take African asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing. Farai, thank you for joining us here on Newsday.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, among concerns regarding this decision, Rwanda, you will recall that Rwanda's own human rights record with the UK they raised allegations of extrajudicial killings, I'm quoting it here, disappearances and torture in the East African nation at the UN last year. So why is Rwanda the country of choice right now for the United Kingdom?
Yet again, thank you for having me. I think the arguments that are presented are that Rwanda has extensive experience with dealing with refugees, especially considering its past. And equally how it has been able to change that story around by being a regional hub when it comes to being a safe haven for asylum seekers and refugees alike. So I suppose within that context, they found it to be befitting. But also it also points to a political pressing issue within the UK electorate itself, in which, if you recall, part of Brexit, part of the major arguments that were made was one that was related to the inability of government to control its borders. So the immigration argument was played a huge part in the electoral outcome of Brexit itself, and it continues to have and haunt the political landscape in the UK. So I find that in light of the multiple issues that are happening concerning number 10, if we are to look at the recent concerns relating to Partygate, and all of a sudden the emergence of this bill, or rather this bilateral arrangement that would see a critical issue that has an impact on the electorate, I think the timing of it all seems to suggest that the argument of human rights violations could purely be seen as a symbolic one, in as far as what would take precedence in comparison to the current pressing issues. So, human rights on one side, but to save the number 10's reputation and electoral success thereof moving forward, perhaps will take greater precedence in this instance.
Now, this decision to send asylum seekers to Rwanda comes at a time when the UK has warmly opened its doors, to Ukrainians who are fleeing the war in their country. Is there a little bit of racism involved in this controversial decision?
Well, it will be difficult not for it to be read as such symbolically, because of course it comes at the backdrop of arrangements with the Ukraine, and equally, of course, when we had Afghanistan and so forth. But on the other side, they would argue that, well, we've had this long time coming plan in which we have been planning this with Rwanda to see a much more what they call empathetic humanitarian approach to dealing with the issues relating to people who cross the border, and equally dealing with the problems and challenges that they've been facing in Calais. So the number of, on average, the UK receives about 600 immigrants a day via the English Channel. And that was much of a concern, as I said, locally from an electoral standpoint, but more fundamentally than the problem that they've had for a long time. Hence why they've had the arrangements that, of course, seem to create concerns between them and France, who equally have to whose bilateral arrangement with the UK is to deter such occurrences. But it appears that the issue seems to be out of control. So as a result of the multiple actions that they have argued they needed to take, they found this to be one of the lowest hanging fruits when it comes to getting to a better outcome. But symbolically, yes, I would agree. It will look like it appears racist, considering the reception of Ukrainian refugees in contrast to the ones that are of African descent.
And we know that the UK economy is on a rebound right now, but this plan is reportedly quite expensive. There's a UK Parliament cabinet member, Andrew Mitchell. He suggested that housing an asylum seeker is equivalent to housing them in the Ritz Hotel in the UK or putting them through Eton College in the UK. That's about $120 million or pounds that they're going to be spending on this scheme. What are your thoughts on how much they're willing to spend in order to get the migrants not on their soil?
Well, that's the problem with the whole scheme itself. It's very hard to substantiate how much value you can put on the price points that they've put. If you look at Australia had a similar arrangement in the past, and they were paying about 400 million to process about 200 refugees. So if the UK currently is dealing with a number of about 28,000. So how many people they actually need to, how many people they be sending off to get processed, and meaning to say the price tag of 120 does not equally factor in the fact that the refugees will arrive in the UK and they need to be processed here and then selected thereof and then sent off to Rwanda. That's an additional cost. It tends to cost France just to get the refugees out of France about 14,000 euros. So it has an added cost, and so far, I don't think the figures will stay at 120 million. We do know that that's just the starting phase of payments, but there will have to be continuous payments to maintain the bilateral arrangement. And I project that those costs will further enhance. And equally, whether it will work economically, I don't see the practicality of it.
Arise News contributor Farai Muvuti, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. We appreciate your time as always.